The punch sent me sprawling against the steel kennels, but I kept my grip on the adoption card that had fallen, the one for a golden retriever whose microchip number looked hauntingly familiar. As Wade towered over me, demanding I sign his fraudulent refinancing papers, he had no idea that the trembling woman on the shelter floor had just found the key to his $1.2 million charity scam. He thought he was claiming victory. He didn't know I'd already claimed the dog, and with it, the evidence that would destroy him. My name is Mara Ellison, and I've spent the last 5 years building walls between myself and the man my mother married. Those walls crumbled the moment Wade Halpern walked into Maple Row Animal Haven at 6:47 p.m. on a Friday evening. I was finishing my volunteer shift, updating intake forms for 3 new arrivals, a German Shepherd mix, 2 tabby kittens, and a golden retriever someone had abandoned near the highway. The golden's microchip had been giving us trouble all afternoon, displaying a contact number that kept routing to disconnected lines. I'd just printed his temporary adoption card when the shelter's door chimed. Mara? Wade's voice carried that familiar edge of barely contained irritation. Your mother said I'd find you here. My fingers tightened on the adoption card. In his hand, I spotted a manila folder, the kind he used for his business opportunities. Behind him, Evan, our newest volunteer, looked up from hosing down the kennels, clearly sensing the tension. We're closing soon, I said, keeping my voice steady. Whatever you need can wait until... No, it can't. He crossed the small reception area in 3 strides, slapping the folder on the counter between us. I need your signature, tonight. I didn't touch the folder. 5 years of watching Wade operate had taught me never to sign anything he presented. The man had cycled through more failed ventures than I could count, each one somehow requiring my mother's credit, her savings, or her signature as a guarantor. I told you before, I'm not co-signing anything. His jaw clenched. This isn't about co-signing. It's about family helping family. Your mother understands that. My mother understands what you tell her to understand. The words hung between us, sharp and undeniable. In my peripheral vision, I saw Evan edge closer to the security camera mounted above the dog food shelves. Good. Whatever happened next, we'd have a record. Wade leaned forward, his cologne something expensive he couldn't afford mixing with the shelter's antiseptic smell. You think you're better than us working your corporate job, playing with stray dogs on weekends like some kind of saint. I think I'm careful, I replied, sliding the adoption card beneath the keyboard. And I think you should leave. That's when he saw it, my phone, screen up on the counter, displaying a text from my half-brother Jonah. Found more irregularities in the Gentle Paws Initiative filings. Call me. Wade's expression shifted, a flash of something dangerous crossing his features. What's Jonah been telling you? Nothing that concerns you. Everything in this family concerns me. He grabbed for my phone, but I was faster, snatching it away. The sudden movement knocked over my coffee mug, sending lukewarm liquid across the intake forms. Get out, I said, my voice low but firm. Now. Instead of leaving, Wade rounded the counter, invading the space meant for staff only. Evan called out a warning, but Wade was already in my face, backing me toward the kennels where the dogs had started barking, sensing the confrontation. You're going to sign these papers, he hissed, and you're going to stop poisoning Jonah against me, or I'll make sure your mother knows exactly what kind of daughter she raised. The kind who won't help you steal anymore. The folder in his hand trembled. Inside, I glimpsed letterhead from Harborline Analytics, my employer. My stomach clenched. How had he gotten company documents? It's not stealing when it's for charity, Wade said, his voice taking on that rehearsed quality I recognized from his phone pitches. Refinancing the shelter's van lease could free up thousands for animal rescue. The shelter doesn't own any vans, I said slowly, the pieces clicking into place, but Gentle Paws Initiative claims to have a fleet of them. That's when he snapped. The folder flew from his hand, papers scattering. His fist connected with my cheekbone, sending me crashing backward into the kennel doors. Pain exploded across my face as metal bit into my shoulders. The golden retriever's adoption card fluttered from my grasp, landing face up on the concrete floor. Through tears and shock, I saw the microchip number clearly printed on the card: 985-121-435-891-226. The same prefix Wade used for his burner phones, the same sequence I'd seen on donation receipts Jonah had questions about. "Sir, you need to leave immediately," Evan shouted, phone already in hand. "I'm calling 911. Wade stood over me, chest heaving, seeming to realize what he'd done. But I wasn't looking at him anymore. I was staring at that adoption card, at the golden retriever now pressing his nose through the kennel bars, whimpering at the chaos. Even as sirens wailed in the distance and Wade fled through the back exit, I knew with absolute certainty I was going to adopt that dog, and he was going to lead me straight to the evidence I needed to destroy Wade Halpern once and for all. The emergency room at Westbriar General smelled like industrial disinfectant and fear. I sat on the edge of an examination bed, holding an ice pack to my swollen cheek while Officer Lila Moreno took my statement. She was younger than me, maybe late 20s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "And you're certain about the assault?" she asked, stylus poised over her tablet. "The security footage from the shelter confirms physical contact, but I need your verbal confirmation." "He punched me," I said clearly. "Wade Halpern, my stepfather, assaulted me when I refused to sign fraudulent documents." Lila's expression remained professionally neutral, but I caught the slight tightening around her mouth. "The volunteer Evan Chen corroborates your account. The video evidence is compelling. Mr. Halpern will be charged with assault on an adult, likely pleading down to misdemeanor battery unless this is part of a larger pattern." She studied me carefully. "Is there anything else you want to tell me about Mr. Halpern?" I thought about the adoption card, now safely tucked in my jacket pocket. "Not yet, but I might have more information soon." After she left, promising to file the report immediately, I called Jonah. My half-brother answered on the first ring. Mara Mom called, said something about Wade and the shelter. "I'm at the hospital," I cut in. "Wade hit me. I'm okay, but I'm not going back to Mom's house." Silence, then, "You're staying with me. No arguments." That night, in Jonah's cramped apartment above the bookstore he managed, I finally examined the golden retriever's information properly. Jonah made tea while I logged into the shelter's volunteer portal using my credentials. "Microchip traces back to Gentle Paws Initiative," I said, scrolling through the registration data. "Listed as a rescue transport from Harbor County. But look at this." I turned the laptop toward him. "The contact number isn't just similar to Wade's burner phones. It's registered to the same batch purchase from an electronics wholesaler." Jonah leaned in, his accounting background immediately catching what I'd almost missed. "The registration date. That's 2 days after Gentle Paws received a $50,000 donation for hurricane relief animal rescue. There was no hurricane in Harbor County that month." We worked in silence for 20 minutes, mapping connections, the microchip database, accessible to registered shelter volunteers for legitimate animal welfare purposes, revealed a network of suspicious entries, dogs supposedly rescued from disasters that hadn't happened, transported by vehicles that didn't exist, all generating paper trails that justified massive fundraising campaigns. "Holy shit," Jonah whispered. "Mara, this is over $1 million in donations, maybe more. And every cent went through bank accounts Wade controls." I pulled up the screenshots he'd sent me earlier that week. "Mom's been depositing cash right after each campaign. She probably thinks she's helping with administrative costs." My phone buzzed. "Mom." "Don't answer," Jonah advised. But I did. Switching to speaker. "Hi, Mom." "Mara, honey, this is all a misunderstanding. Wade's very sorry. He's under so much stress with the charity work." "The charity work?" I repeated flatly. "You mean Gentle Paws?" "Yes, they do such important work. Wade's dedicated his life to helping animals. You know how much that means to him." I met Jonah's eyes. He started recording on his phone. "Mom, Has Wade ever asked you to deposit cash from the charity maybe to help with expenses? Well, of course. The foundation reimburses us for using our home as an office. Wade says it's all perfectly legal. He even used some of it to fix the deck last month. The charity needed a proper space for adoption events. How much money are we talking about? Oh, I don't know exactly. Maybe 3 or 4,000 a month. Wade handles all that. I just make the deposits when he asks. She paused. Mara, why are you asking about this? You're making it sound like fraud. I finished. Mom, I'm staying with Jonah tonight. Wade assaulted me at the shelter. There's video evidence and a police report. Silence stretched between us before she spoke again, her voice smaller. He said you attacked him first. Said you were trying to sabotage the charity because you're jealous. Mom, I have to go. Wade needs me to. I have to go. The line went dead. Jonah stopped recording, his expression grim. That's evidence of her involvement. She could be charged as an accomplice. I know. I stared at the laptop screen, at the digital breadcrumbs leading from a golden retriever to a massive fraud operation. But she's also a victim. We need to handle this carefully. I pulled up the adoption application for the golden retriever. First things first, I'm filing for official adoption tomorrow. Once I'm the legal owner, I'll have full access to all his medical and transport records through Gentle Paw's uploaded documents. You're going to use a dog to take down Wade. I'm going to use Wade's own system against him. I saved the application, already planning my next moves. He created fake rescue dogs to justify fake expenses, but this one's real, and he's about to become evidence. Jonah poured more tea, a small smile playing at his lips despite everything. What are you going to name him? I thought about the golden retriever, about how he'd pressed against the kennel bars as I lay on the floor, as if trying to comfort me. Scout, I decided, because he's going to help us scout out the truth. Wade has no idea what's coming, does he? None, I confirmed, touching my bruised cheek. He thinks he won by scaring me tonight, but all he did was show me exactly where to look. Saturday morning arrived with a voicemail from Maple Row Animal Haven. The shelter's director, Dr. Sarah Winters, sounded concerned but supportive. Mara, I heard about last night. Take all the time you need to heal. Also, I've expedited your adoption application for the golden retriever, given the circumstances. We're waiving the usual waiting period. You can pick him up this afternoon. I spent the morning leveraging my compliance officer skills from Harborline Analytics, working from Jonah's laptop. I traced digital footprints with the methodical precision I usually reserved for regulatory audits. The Gentle Paws Initiative website looked professional stock photos of happy dogs, heartwarming rescue stories, a prominent donation button, but the metadata told a different story. Look at this, I told Jonah, pointing to the screen. Every donation receipt routes through the same payment processor, but check the IP addresses. All transactions originate from 3 locations: Mom's house, the public library, and the coffee shop on Maple Street, where Wade meets his business associates. I cross-referenced the donation timestamps with the library's public computer logs, obtained through a simple FOIA request filed online. Wade had been sloppy, using the same library card number he'd gotten under Mom's account. Pattern after pattern emerged: large donations always preceded by flurries of activity from Romanian and Nigerian IP addresses, classic indicators of purchased bot traffic to simulate grassroots support. Officer Moreno called while I was documenting the money flow from donation platform to Barley Ridge Holdings, LLC. Ms. Ellison, I wanted to update you on your case. I've been reviewing the evidence, and I noticed something interesting. The golden retriever you mentioned, his microchip number flagged in our system. My pulse quickened. Flagged how? It matches a number pattern associated with fraudulent pet trafficking investigations in 3 neighboring counties. I can't share active investigation details, but I can suggest that if you're planning to adopt that dog, maintaining detailed records would be beneficial. I understand. Actually, Officer Moreno, I'm picking him up this afternoon. The shelter confirmed he's evidence in the assault case. Smart move. And Mara, if you discover anything unusual in his adoption paperwork, particularly regarding transport documentation or vaccination records, I'd be very interested in seeing it. Officially, of course. After ending the call, I turned to Jonah. She knows. The police are already investigating the pet trafficking angle. Then why haven't they arrested Wade? Because they need solid evidence linking him to the money. Right now, all they have are suspicious patterns. I pulled up the shelter's volunteer portal. But I'm about to have something they don't legal access to Gentle Paw's internal documents as Scout's official owner. That afternoon, I returned to Maple Row. My face had blossomed into a spectacular bruise, purple and green spreading across my cheekbone. Evan was working the desk, his relief evident when he saw me. "Mara, I'm so sorry about last night. I should have—" "You called 911 and recorded everything," I interrupted gently. "You did exactly what you should have done." Dr. Winters emerged from the back, leading the golden retriever on a new leash. The dog's tail went into overdrive when he saw me, pulling forward with surprising strength for an animal supposedly recovering from neglect. "He's been waiting for you," she said, handing over the leash. "I've never seen him respond to anyone like this. It's like he knows you're here to help." As I knelt to clip the leash to his collar, Scout licked my uninjured cheek with remarkable gentleness. Dr. Winters produced a folder thick with documentation. "This is everything we have on him, plus what Gentle Paws uploaded to our system when they claimed to have rescued him. I made copies of everything," she lowered her voice, "including some documents that seem inconsistent." I flipped through the papers as Scout sat patiently beside me. Transport logs showing movement of 20 dogs in a van with a 6-dog capacity, vaccination records signed by a veterinarian who'd lost his license in 2019. And there the smoking gun I'd been hoping for. "This is," I stared at the page, "a receipt for microchipping services," Dr. Winters confirmed. "Dated last week, but Gentle Paws claims they rescued him from Hurricane Maria victims. Hurricane Maria was in 2017. Exactly. And look at the billing address for the microchipping." My blood chilled. It was a P.O. box registered to W. Halpern Enterprises, a company Jonah and I had found in our research, one that supposedly dissolved in 2020, but was somehow still receiving mail. "Can I get a certified copy of all of this?" I asked. "Already done." Dr. Winters handed me a sealed envelope. "Notarized and witnessed. Whatever you're planning to do, Mara, the shelter supports you. Wade Halpern has been sniffing around animal welfare organizations for years, and we're tired of seeing good people's donations disappear." I stood, Scout's leash firm in my hand. He made a mistake when he came to the shelter. He thought he was confronting me on neutral ground. But this is my territory, these animals, this community we protect our own. As I led Scout to my car, I noticed a familiar SUV in the parking lot. Wade's vehicle, empty but with the engine still warm. I quickly got Scout secured in my back seat and drove away, already texting Officer Moreno about the vehicle's presence. That evening, safe in Jonah's apartment with Scout curled at my feet, I uploaded every document to multiple cloud storage services. The web of fraud was comprehensive: $1.2 million over 18 months. 40% skimmed as operational costs, 35% laundered through shell companies, the rest washed through fake animal purchases and transport fees. "We have him," Jonah said quietly, reviewing my documentation matrix. "This is enough to bury him." "Not yet," I corrected, scratching behind Scout's ears. "This is enough to start the avalanche, but I want him buried so deep he never climbs out." Scout's tail thumped against the floor, as if in agreement. Phase 1 was complete. I'd legally claimed the dog whose microchip held the key to Wade's fraud. Now it was time for Phase 2, turning evidence into action. Sunday evening brought the call I'd been dreading. Mom's number flashed on my screen while Scout dozed at my feet, and Jonah worked through bank statements at the kitchen table. I let it ring twice before answering, activating the recording app as legally permitted in our single-party consent state. "Mara, this has gone too far." Mom launched in without preamble. Wade's consulting with lawyers about defamation. He says you're spreading lies about the charity. What lies? Specifically, that Gentle Paws isn't legitimate. Honey, I've seen the work they do. Wade showed me photos of all the animals they've saved. Stock photos, I said evenly. I can send you the links to the original images if you'd like. Silence stretched between us. When she spoke again, her voice carried a tremor. I recognized the sound of doubt creeping in despite her desperate desire to believe. Why are you doing this? He assaulted me. Mom, there's video evidence. He was upset you've been poisoning Jonah against us, digging into private business matters. Is that what Wade told you to say? Nobody tells me what to say. But the protest rang hollow. I could hear Wade's coaching in her inflection, his words coming through her mouth. We're a family. Families support each other. Wade's been nothing but generous, using the charity funds to help us. Stop, I interrupted, my compliance officer instincts kicking in. Mom, listen to yourself. You just admitted to using charity funds for personal expenses. For the house, Wade said it's allowed because we use the house for charity operations. The deck renovation was for hosting adoption events. Jonah looked up sharply, mouthing, "Keep her talking." How much money has Wade taken from Gentle Paws for these home improvements? I asked. It's not taking when it's reimbursement, she insisted, but uncertainty colored her words. Maybe $40,000 the deck, the new kitchen appliances for preparing dog food, the home office renovation. Mom, when was the last time you saw a Gentle Paws dog at the house? Another pause. Well, we can't have them there because of my allergies, but... You don't have allergies. You lived with Rusty for 12 years. Rusty had been our golden retriever growing up, the dog who'd taught me to love the breed. Looking at Scout, I saw echoes of that childhood companion. I developed them, she snapped, then immediately softened. Wade says it's common, late-onset allergies. That's why he handles all the direct animal contact. Jonah slid a document across the table property records showing 3 renovation permits for Mom's house, all filed by contractors who also appeared in Gentle Paws expense reports. The same work, billed twice. Mom, I need you to listen carefully. Wade isn't who you think he is. The charity is a front. He's stolen over $1 million from people who thought they were helping animals. You're wrong, but her voice broke on the words. Wade loves animals. He told me about his childhood dog, how losing her inspired him to start Gentle Paws. His childhood dog named Bella the golden retriever who died of cancer. Yes, how did you? Because I found that exact story on a copywriting website, word for word. He bought it for $15. The sound that escaped her was small and wounded. In the background, I heard a door slam, Wade's voice calling her name. I have to go, she whispered. Mom, wait. He used charity money for the deck, she said rapidly. $42,000. I signed the deposit slips. I thought I was helping. The line went dead. Jonah and I sat in stunned silence. Scout lifted his head, sensing the tension, and patted over to rest his chin on my knee. She knows, Jonah said finally. Part of her has always known. I saved the recording, adding it to our growing evidence file. Wade's going to panic when he realizes she's doubting him. We need to move fast. Over the next 3 days, I built our case with methodical precision, using Scout's adoption records as a starting point. I traced 17 other dogs with similar microchip patterns, all generating thousands in donation revenue despite never existing. I found duplicate fundraising campaigns, the same sob story posted months apart with only the names changed. Donation patterns that coincidentally spiked right before Wade's major purchases: the boat, the motorcycle, the country club membership Mom didn't know about. Wednesday morning, Jonah made the breakthrough that shifted everything from civil to criminal. Mara, look at this. He turned his laptop toward me, showing a business registration. Harbor County Pet Relief, the organization that supposedly partners with Gentle Paws. What about it? It doesn't exist, but someone's been filing tax-exempt paperwork in its name. He pulled up another screen. And claiming federal disaster relief funds for hurricane victims, that's not just fraud, that's a federal crime. My phone buzzed. Officer Moreno. Ms. Ellison, I'm calling to inform you that based on evidence uncovered in related investigations, we're elevating your case. The county prosecutor is now involved. We may need you to provide a formal statement regarding any financial documents you've discovered through legal channels. I can do that. Actually, officer, I should mention that Gentle Paws is hosting a fundraising event this Saturday, the Moonlit Adoptions Gala at Riverset Pavilion. Is that so? Her tone sharpened. And will Wade Halpern be attending? He's the guest of honor. They're auctioning off rescue experiences, including a ride-along in the transport vans that don't exist. Ms. Ellison, I'm going to give you some unofficial advice. If you happen to attend that gala, it would be helpful if Scout accompanied you. Service animals are welcome at the venue, and a well-trained dog can be very comforting in stressful situations. I understood perfectly. Scout's very well trained. In fact, he responds beautifully to having his microchip scanned. The shelter taught him to sit perfectly still for it. How convenient. I'll see you Saturday. Ms. Ellison, unofficially, of course. As I hung up, Scout wagged his tail, as if he understood his role in the coming performance. The trap was set. Wade thought he'd scared me into silence with his fist. Instead, he'd handed me the perfect weapon, a dog whose very existence would unravel his empire of lies. Ready to go to a party, boy? I asked Scout. His answering bark sounded like justice. Saturday arrived with the kind of crisp autumn evening that made outdoor galas magical. Riverset Pavilion glowed with string lights and paper lanterns, transformed into an upscale venue that belied the corruption at its heart. I stood at the entrance with Scout, his golden coat gleaming from the grooming session I'd insisted on. He wore a service vest I'd legally obtained my bruised face and documented assault qualifying me for a temporary emotional support accommodation. Invitation. The volunteer at the check-in table looked familiar, one of Wade's regular crew. Mara Ellison, +1, I smiled tightly. The +1 is Scout. Her eyes widened with recognition, darting between my still visible bruise and the dog at my side. I need to check with... No need. Officer Moreno appeared beside us in civilian clothes, flashing her badge discreetly. They're with me. We entered together, Moreno murmuring, "County auditors at the bar, state prosecutors by the silent auction. Play this naturally until we give the signal." The pavilion buzzed with Westbrier's charitable elite, all here to support what they believed was a legitimate cause. Gentle Paws had spent thousands on this event donor money funding Wade's performance of legitimacy. I spotted him near the makeshift stage, glad-handing city councilors in his rented tuxedo. Mara, Dr. Winters materialized from the crowd, officially representing Maple Row. "I'm so glad you came. Is this our golden boy?" "This is Scout," I confirmed, letting her pet him, loudly enough to carry. I added, "The one with the interesting microchip history." Several heads turned, Wade's included. Our eyes met across the pavilion. His face cycled through emotions: surprise, anger, calculation. Then he plastered on his charity spokesman smile and began working his way toward us. "Let him come," Moreno advised quietly. "We're recording." But Wade was intercepted by the event's MC calling him to the stage for his welcome speech. I watched him wrestle with the decision before accepting the microphone. "Thank you all for supporting Gentle Paws' initiative," he began, his voice carrying that false warmth I'd grown to despise. "This year alone, we've rescued over 200 animals from disaster zones, transported 150 dogs to loving homes, and provided veterinary care to countless others." Jonah appeared at my elbow. Notice how he's not mentioning specific disasters or showing any actual rescue photos. Wade continued, "Our transport fleet, operating under federal license number 74B-2019, has logged thousands of miles bringing hope to abandoned animals." I pulled out my phone, quickly texting Officer Moreno, "That's Maple Row's transport license number. They've never partnered with Gentle Paws. Her response was immediate. Perfect. Keep him talking. As Wade wrapped up his speech, calling for generous donations, I raised my hand. Mr. Halpern, could you tell us more about the recent Hurricane Maria rescues? I'm particularly interested in the golden retrievers you saved. The pavilion quieted. Wade's smile flickered. I'm sorry. Who are you? Mara Ellison, your stepdaughter, the one you assaulted last week. I touched my bruised cheek. I adopted one of your Hurricane Maria rescues. This is Scout. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Wade's microphone hand trembled slightly. I don't know what game you're playing. No game, I interrupted, walking closer with Scout. I'm just curious about the logistics. Hurricane Maria was in 2017, but Scout's microchip was registered last week. How does that work? Obviously, he was re-chipped after rescue, Wade said smoothly. Standard procedure for traumatized animals. Under what veterinary license? I pressed. Because the vet who signed his papers, Dr. Marcus Webb, lost his license in 2019. The crowd's attention ping-ponged between us like a tennis match. Wade's charity board members exchanged worried glances. You're confused, Wade insisted. Dr. Webb consults for us. Licensing is complicated. Is that why you've been depositing Gentle Paws funds into your personal accounts? Jonah called out, holding up his phone. I have bank records showing $42,000 in charity funds used for your home renovation. Wade's composure finally cracked. Those were legitimate reimbursements. We used the property for charity operations. Which operations? I asked, because according to your neighbor's security footage, no rescue animals have ever been to the house. Hard to claim operational use when Mom's fictional allergies keep all the animals away. Someone in the crowd gasped. The prosecuting attorney stepped forward, positioning himself strategically. Wade pointed at me, his face flushing. You vindictive little bitch. You're trying to destroy something beautiful because you can't stand seeing your mother happy. No, I said calmly. I'm trying to stop you from stealing more money from people who want to help animals. That's when Wade made his fatal error. Abandoning the microphone, he stormed off the stage toward me. You want to see the real operation? Fine. Someone bring the microchip scanner. I'll prove this dog isn't even from our program. Doctor. Winters produced a scanner from her bag, clearly prepared for this moment. I always carry one. Professional habit. Wade snatched it from her, activated it, and waved it over Scout's neck. The device beeped, displaying the number on its small screen. For a moment, Wade looked triumphant. Then Officer Moreno's voice cut through the pavilion. Mr. Halpern, can you explain why that microchip number is registered to a phone number associated with fraudulent charity operations in 3 states? The color drained from Wade's face as he realized the trap. The scanner's display showed not just the number, but the linked database entry, including the phone number he'd used for his burner phone, the same one he'd texted threats from just days ago. That's not... He spun, looking for escape routes, but uniformed officers had quietly positioned themselves at each exit. The county auditor stepped forward. Mr. Halpern, I'm placing a freeze on all Gentle Paws initiative accounts pending investigation. We've documented systematic fraud, money laundering, and misuse of federal disaster relief funds. Wade lunged at me then, rage overtaking reason. But Scout, sweet Scout, who'd been perfectly calm all evening, suddenly stood between us, growling low in his throat. It was enough hesitation for Officer Moreno to step in. Wade Halpern, you're under arrest for assault, fraud, money laundering, and filing false federal documents. She cuffed him efficiently while reciting his rights. As they led him away, he screamed over his shoulder, Ruth, tell them about the charity work. But Mom, who I hadn't seen arrive, stood frozen by the dessert table, tears streaming down her face as she finally understood the magnitude of Wade's deception. The pavilion erupted in chaos, donors demanding answers, board members scrambling for damage control, reporters who'd come for a puff piece suddenly having real news. Through it all, I knelt beside Scout, burying my face in his golden fur. Good boy, I whispered. Such a good boy. He'd played his part perfectly. The dog Wade had registered to hide his crimes had become the key to exposing them all. Monday morning arrived with a process server at Jonah's door. I accepted the papers with Scout watching curiously from behind my legs, already knowing what they'd contain. Wade had made bail and immediately filed a civil suit defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with business relations. He was seeking $250,000 in damages. He's trying to bankrupt you into silence, Jonah observed, scanning the complaint over coffee. Claims you orchestrated a malicious smear campaign against a respected charity leader. Let him try. I'd spent Sunday organizing our evidence into indexed folders, preparing for exactly this escalation. He just opened himself up to discovery. Every financial record, every communication, it all becomes fair game. My lawyer, Patricia Downs, agreed when we met that afternoon, a former prosecutor turned civil litigator. She'd taken my case pro bono after hearing about the charity fraud angle. This is what we call a slap suit, she explained, reviewing Wade's filing. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. He's hoping to intimidate you. Instead, he's handed us subpoena power. What do you need from me? Everything, every document, every recording, every text message, and Mara? She leaned forward. I want you to file a countersuit, not just for the assault, but for fraud, emotional distress, and financial exploitation of your mother. Make him fight on multiple fronts. The preliminary hearing was set for Thursday. In the intervening days, Wade's desperation became increasingly visible. He launched a PR campaign on social media, posting photos of himself with dogs, all stock images. Jonah confirmed. Testimonials from supposed rescue recipients, fake profiles created days ago, and increasingly unhinged videos denouncing the conspiracy against him. Tuesday night, my phone rang from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. You stupid girl. Wade's voice was raw, slightly slurred. You think you've won? I've got supporters, real supporters who believe in the cause. Wade, your lawyer would advise. Fuck my lawyer. You poisoned Ruth against me, turned my own family into enemies, but I've got insurance. Understand documentation that proves you were involved from the beginning. I hit record, gesturing for Jonah to trace the call. What documentation? Emails, showing you helped set up the payment processing, your IP address all over the early donations. How's that going to look to your precious compliance job? My blood chilled before I recognized the bluff. You mean the emails you tried to forge using my company letterhead? The ones with metadata showing they were created last week? Silence. Then, you can't prove anything. I can prove you just called me from a burner phone in violation of the protection order. I can prove you're attempting witness intimidation. And Wade. The FBI Cybercrime Unit is very interested in your password choices. Apparently Bella 2017 wasn't as clever as you thought. He hung up. 30 seconds later, Jonah confirmed he'd traced the call to a motel on the outskirts of town. I forwarded the recording to Officer Moreno and Patricia. Thursday's hearing was held in a packed courtroom. Wade appeared with his budget attorney, projecting false confidence in a suit that didn't quite fit. I sat with Patricia. Scout's adoption papers and microchip documentation spread before us. Your Honor, Wade's attorney began, my client has been subjected to a coordinated harassment campaign led by a vindictive stepdaughter with a history of... Objection, Patricia interrupted smoothly. Counsel is making claims without foundation. We move to submit evidence of the plaintiff's pattern of fraudulent behavior. The judge, Martha Chen, raised an eyebrow. This is a preliminary hearing. Counselor, not a trial. Yes, Your Honor. However, the plaintiff's credibility is directly relevant to his claims. We have video evidence of him assaulting Ms. Ellison, audio evidence of witness intimidation, and documentary evidence of systematic charity fraud. You can't just, Wade burst out, rising from his chair. Mr. Halpern, sit down and let your attorney speak, Judge Chen ordered sharply. What followed was a masterclass in legal demolition. Patricia presented our evidence piece by piece: the assault video, the threatening phone call, the forged documents Wade had created to frame me. But the killing blow came when she introduced the microchip evidence. Your Honor, the plaintiff registered multiple dogs with microchip numbers linked to burner phones he used for fraudulent activities. Ms. Ellison discovered this through legal adoption of one such animal. Her actions were not defamation, but legitimate investigation of criminal conduct. Wade's attorney tried to object, but Judge Chen was already reviewing the documentation. Her expression grew increasingly stern as she connected the dots we'd laid out. Mr. Halpern, she said finally, not only do I find no merit in your claims, but I'm deeply concerned by what's been presented. This appears to be a clear attempt to use the civil courts to silence a whistleblower. Your Honor, my client. Your client filed a fraudulent lawsuit. I'm dismissing all claims with prejudice and awarding attorney fees to the defendant. She turned to Wade. Furthermore, I'm issuing a permanent restraining order. You are not to contact Ms. Ellison, her family, or her place of employment. Any violation will result in immediate incarceration. This is bullshit, Wade exploded, slamming his fist on the table. She set me up. That dog was planted to... Bailiff, Judge Chen said calmly, please escort Mr. Halpern out. And Mr. Halpern, I'll be forwarding this transcript to the criminal court handling your fraud case. I suspect they'll find your outburst very interesting. As the bailiff approached, Wade made one last desperate play. He pulled out his phone, apparently trying to live stream, shouting about corruption and conspiracy. The bailiff wrestled the phone away, but not before Wade had shoved past his attorney, sending papers flying. In the chaos, I noticed something falling from Wade's jacket, a USB drive that skittered across the floor. Patricia scooped it up immediately, holding it up for the judge to see. Your Honor, the plaintiff just dropped what appears to be digital storage. Given the ongoing criminal investigation, we request this be secured as potential evidence. Judge Chen nodded. Bailiff, please collect that device. This hearing is adjourned. As we filed out, Patricia murmured, Want to bet that USB contains his real financial records? No bet, I replied, feeling Scout's comforting presence at my side. Wade always did keep backups of his backups. He just never imagined they'd be used against him. In the hallway, Mom waited on a bench, looking smaller and older than I'd ever seen her. When she saw me, she stood uncertainly. Mara, I'm sorry. For everything. For not believing you. For choosing him over my own children. I wanted to maintain my anger, to make her feel the weight of her choices. But Scout, reading the room better than any human, walked over and gently nudged her hand. The simple gesture broke something in both of us. We'll talk, I said quietly. After the criminal trial, after you've cooperated fully with the prosecution. She nodded, tears streaming. I will, I promise. I'll tell them everything. As Patricia led us away to discuss next steps, I realized the civil suit had accomplished exactly what Wade feared most. It had opened every door he'd tried to keep locked. His intimidation attempt had become the key to his own destruction. The West Briar County Auditor's Office wasn't built for media circuses, but by 2 p.m. Friday, news vans lined the street and reporters jostled for position on the courthouse steps. The emergency press conference had been called to address what local media dubbed Charitygate, the unraveling of one of the region's most prominent animal rescue organizations. I stood at the edge of the crowd, Scout's leash wrapped firmly around my hand, Patricia beside me. We weren't supposed to be center stage. That honor belonged to County Auditor Michelle Reeves and District Attorney James Ford, but Patricia had received word that my presence might be requested. Ladies and gentlemen, Auditor Reeves began, her voice carrying over the crowd. Our office has completed a preliminary forensic audit of Gentle Paws Initiative and related organizations. What we've uncovered is a systematic fraud spanning 18 months and involving approximately $1.2 million in misappropriated donations. Cameras clicked frantically. Scout pressed closer to my leg, sensing my tension. DEA Ford took the microphone. Multiple charges have been filed against Wade Halpern. including wire fraud, money laundering, filing false federal documents, and theft by deception. We've frozen assets totaling $800,000 and expect to recover more as our investigation continues. What about the animals? A reporter shouted. Were any actual rescues performed? Reeves exchanged glances with Ford. Our investigation shows that while Gentle Paws maintained a legitimate-looking operation, fewer than 10% of claimed rescues actually occurred. Most animals in their system existed only on paper, generating donations for disasters that never affected them, from locations that never housed them. From across the crowd, I spotted Wade. He'd positioned himself near the side entrance, wearing the same ill-fitting suit from yesterday's hearing, his lawyer nowhere in sight. His face was flushed, eyes wild. I tugged Patricia's sleeve, nodding in his direction. "Security's keeping an eye on him," she whispered. "Let him expose himself." The Q&A session continued for another 10 minutes before Wade made his move. Pushing through the crowd, he grabbed a reporter's microphone. "This is a witch hunt," he declared, spittle flying. "I dedicated my life to saving animals, and this is how I'm repaid, by a vindictive stepdaughter who—" "Mr. Halpern," D.A. Ford interrupted. "You're currently out on bail. I'd advise—" "I'll tell you what really happened." Wade steamrolled on, cameras swinging his way. "Mara Ellison has been sabotaging Gentle Paws from day one. She planted evidence, manipulated records." "Actually," Auditor Reeves cut in, "Ms. Ellison is here today as a witness and whistleblower. Her discovery of fraudulent microchip registrations led to our investigation. Perhaps she'd like to make a statement." Every head turned. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. "Your choice." I hadn't planned to speak, but seeing Wade's desperate fury, his complete inability to accept accountability, something shifted. I stepped forward, Scout matching my pace perfectly. "My name is Mara Ellison," I said clearly. "I'm a compliance officer at Harborline Analytics and a weekend volunteer at Maple Row Animal Haven. I'm also the person who adopted this dog." I gestured to Scout, whose microchip was registered to a phone number used in multi-state charity fraud. Wade lunged forward but was blocked by security. "That dog was planted, tell them." I continued, ignoring him. What started as simple curiosity about Scout's background revealed a network of fake rescues, phantom transport vehicles, and fabricated disasters. The evidence is clear. Gentle Paws Initiative existed primarily to enrich Wade Halpern at the expense of generous donors who believed they were helping animals in need. "Ms. Ellison," a reporter called, "what made you suspicious initially?" "The math didn't add up," I replied simply. Gentle Paws claimed to transport 20 dogs in vans with 6-dog capacity. They registered Hurricane Maria rescues with microchips purchased last week. They paid for veterinary services from delicensed providers. When you work in compliance, these patterns jump out. "She's lying." Wade broke free from security's grip, storming toward the microphone. "Show them the real books, the ones proving she—" He stopped mid-sentence, realizing his mistake. Auditor Reeves leaned into her microphone. "Mr. Halpern, are you stating there are additional financial records we haven't reviewed?" Wade's mouth opened and closed like a fish. His face cycled through emotions: rage, panic, calculation. Then, inexplicably, he laughed. "You want the real books? Fine. They're in a storage unit on Baxter Road. Unit 47. Everything's there, every donation, every expense, and you'll see Mara's name all over them because she helped set it up." Patricia stepped forward. "Mr. Halpern just confessed to maintaining a second set of books and attempted to implicate my client in his criminal enterprise. I trust the prosecution will note this." DEA Ford was already on his phone, presumably dispatching investigators to the storage unit, but I wasn't worried about what they'd find. Wade's desperate attempt to frame me would only reveal more evidence of his fraud, likely including the pre-donation dummy transactions he'd run to test the system, all time-stamped before I'd ever heard of Gentle Paws. The press conference devolved into chaos. Security moved to escort Wade out, but he made one final attempt at grandstanding, breaking free. He grabbed someone's phone, aiming it at himself. People of West Briar, don't let them destroy charitable work. Gentle Paws saved hundreds of... That's when Scout decided he'd heard enough. My normally calm golden retriever barked once, sharp and commanding. The sound cut through Wade's rant like a blade. Every camera turned to capture Scout sitting at perfect attention, his golden eyes fixed on Wade with what could only be described as judgment. "Even the dog knows you're full of shit," someone in the crowd muttered, generating nervous laughter. Officer Moreno appeared with backup, cuffs ready. "Mr. Halpern, you've violated your bail conditions by attempting to intimidate witnesses and interfere with an ongoing investigation." This time, when they cuffed him, Wade didn't struggle. He stared at me over the officer's shoulders as they led him away, his expression a mix of hatred and disbelief. He genuinely thought he could talk his way out of this, that charm and bluster would overcome evidence and facts. As the crowd began dispersing, Auditor Reeves approached me. "Ms. Ellison, thank you for your courage in coming forward. The county will ensure Maple Row Animal Haven receives full restitution, and legitimate donors will be partially compensated from recovered assets." "What about the animals who were actually helped?" I asked. "There must have been some real rescues mixed in." "We're working with legitimate shelters to ensure any animals genuinely aided by Gentle Paws continue receiving care. Your shelter Maple Row has offered to coordinate that effort." Later, sitting in Patricia's office for a debrief, I felt the adrenaline crash hit. Scout sensed it, resting his head on my lap with a soft whine. "Storage unit's a gold mine," Patricia reported, checking her phone. "Actual books showing the full scope of the fraud, plus evidence of 6 other fake charities Wade was preparing to launch. Using the same model. Down to recycled dog names. Apparently, every fake rescue was going to have a golden retriever named Bella." I laughed despite everything at the absurdity, the narcissism, the sheer predictability of it all. Wade had built an empire on fictional dogs, never imagining a real one would bring it all crashing down. "So what's next?" I asked. "Criminal trial in 2 months, civil restitution hearings after that. Your testimony will be crucial for both," Patricia smiled. "But tonight, go home, hug your dog. You did good, Mara." As Scout and I walked to my car, I thought about the morning at the shelter when this all began. Wade had come looking for my signature, for compliance with his schemes. Instead, he'd set in motion his own downfall. "Come on, boy," I told Scout. "Let's go home, our real home." His tail wagged in agreement. The golden retriever who'd been registered as part of a scam had become the key to justice. It felt like something out of a movie, too poetic to be real. But then again, the best revenge often was. The Riverset Pavilion looked different in daylight. 2 months after the disastrous fundraising gala, it hosted another event this time, a legitimate adoption fair organized by Maple Row Animal Haven. I stood near the entrance, Scout at my side wearing his adoption ambassador vest, greeting families interested in giving rescue animals real homes. "Mara." Dr. Winters approached with a clipboard. "Channel 6 just arrived. They want to interview you about the prosecution's victory." Yesterday's verdict had been swift and decisive, guilty on all counts. Wade Halpern would serve 8 to 12 years in federal prison for wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. The judge had been particularly harsh about his abuse of public trust, noting that charity fraud undermined society's willingness to help those in need. "I'll talk to them in a minute," I said, kneeling to adjust Scout's vest. "Let them set up first." The morning sun cast long shadows across the pavilion where Wade had been arrested 8 weeks ago. Now it buzzed with genuine charity work, volunteers walking dogs, families meeting cats, donation jars filling with money that would actually help animals. "Ms. Ellison." The reporter, a young woman with kind eyes, approached with her cameraman. "Could we get your reaction to the verdict?" I stood, Scout automatically positioning himself beside me. "I'm relieved justice was served. Mr. Halpern stole $1.2 million meant for animals in crisis. That money could have saved thousands of lives. The prosecution specifically thanked you for providing crucial evidence. Can you tell us about finding that evidence? I glanced down at Scout, who seemed to preen under the attention. It started with this dog. Scout's microchip led to a phone number, which led to financial records, which exposed an entire network of fraud. Sometimes the smallest details reveal the biggest crimes. What about your mother? She testified for the prosecution. My mother was another victim of Wade Halpern's manipulation. She's cooperating fully with authorities and working to make amends. Our relationship is a work in progress. It was true. Mom had moved into a small apartment, started therapy, and begun volunteering at Maple Row under strict supervision. Trust would take time to rebuild, but she was trying. The reporter wrapped up, and I returned to my volunteer duties. Jonah arrived around noon with sandwiches and news. Just got off the phone with the federal prosecutor, he said, unwrapping his lunch. They're seizing 3 more properties Wade owned under shell companies. Full restitution to donors should be possible. Good. I watched a little girl squeal with delight as she met a beagle puppy, a real rescue from a real situation. Every penny should go back to helping animals. Speaking of which, Jonah grinned. Harborline Analytics wants to hire you for their new nonprofit compliance division. Apparently, exposing $1 million charity fraud makes you attractive to employers. I laughed, the first genuine laugh in months. I'll think about it. As the afternoon wore on, the adoption fair exceeded all expectations. 15 animals found homes, including the golden retriever who'd shared a kennel with Scout that fateful night. I watched his new family load him into their car, tail wagging furiously. Officer Moreno Lila, as I'd learned to call her, stopped by in civilian clothes. Thought you'd want to know. The FBI used Wade's case to crack 2 similar operations in neighboring states. Your documentation methods became a template for their investigations. He always did like to network, I said dryly. As the sun began to set, Dr. Winters called everyone together for a brief ceremony. She presented me with a plaque, Honorary Lifetime Volunteer, Maple Row Animal Haven. For service above and beyond, she said, voice carrying over the applause. And for reminding us that sometimes saving animals means stopping those who exploit them. I accepted the plaque with tears in my eyes, Scout barking his approval. In the crowd, I spotted Mom, clapping with everyone else. She caught my eye and mouthed, "I'm proud of you." Baby steps. The pavilion began to empty as vendors packed up and families headed home with their new pets. I stayed to help clean up, Scout faithfully by my side. As I folded tablecloths and stacked chairs, I thought about the journey from that violent night at the shelter to this moment of community triumph. Hey, Mara. Evan, the volunteer who'd witnessed Wade's assault, appeared with a trash bag. I never properly thanked you for standing up to him, for showing us that bullies don't always win. Scout deserves most of the credit, I deflected, but Evan shook his head. No. You could have walked away after the assault, could have taken a restraining order and left it at that. Instead, you fought for justice. As the last of the sunset faded, I clipped Scout's leash and headed for my car. My own car, parked outside my own apartment, paid for with my own money, no manipulation, no financial entanglement, no toxic stepfather pulling strings. At the courthouse that morning, Wade had been led away in shackles in an orange jumpsuit, still muttering about conspiracies and setups. But there was no conspiracy, just a man whose greed was exposed by his own sloppiness and a dog he'd tried to use as a prop. I opened my car door, and Scout jumped into his spot in the back seat. In my rearview mirror, I could see the pavilion one last time, now peaceful and empty. The same space that had hosted Wade's dramatic downfall had today facilitated real charity, real adoptions, real help for animals in need. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Celebration dinner tomorrow, Yumi, Jonah, and Scout, my treat. I typed back a quick yes and started the engine. As we drove through West Briar's quiet streets, Scout's head out the window enjoying the breeze, I realized something profound. I'd gotten my revenge not through violence or criminal acts, but through the very systems Wade had tried to corrupt: compliance, documentation, legal channels. The boring stuff that makes society function had been my weapons. "What do you think, boy?" I asked Scout, ready to go back to normal life. His answering bark suggested he was ready for whatever came next, and so was I. The golden retriever who'd started as evidence had become family. The assault that was meant to silence me had given me a voice, and Wade's carefully constructed charity scheme had crumbled because he'd underestimated the power of truth, persistence, and one very special dog. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just served cold, it's served with a wagging tail and a microchip that tells the whole story. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below, and let's connect and share our thoughts about Mara's journey for justice. If you enjoyed this revenge story, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, and don't forget to press the hype button to help more people discover this story. Your support means everything.